The ceramic mug hit the floor with a crack that echoed through the room. Coffee splattered across the oak boards, spreading in dark rivulets that reached the edges of the Persian rug. The smell of roasted beans clung to the air, but all I could see was the way my daughter's hand still shook after letting go. Her cheeks burned crimson, her freshly manicured nails digging into her palm as though pain would anchor her. "Dad," she said, her voice sharp and trembling. "Do you even understand? I need the money now, not when you're gone." I gripped the folder in my hand tighter until the inheritance documents inside crinkled. 38 years of meticulous planning, of cautious investments and delayed gratification, reduced to bargaining chips in my daughter's desperate plea. Across from me, Peter leaned back deeper into the leather sofa as though he owned it. His smirk spread wide, shark-like. "Come on, Frank," he drawled, kicking one sneakered foot up over his knee. "She's your only daughter. What's a few thousand here and there? You'll still have plenty left over." I stared at him. The gall of the man. A few thousand? Last month, it had been 10,000 to cover his business setback, which I later discovered was poker losses. The month before that, it was Samantha's credit cards, maxed out on handbags and salon visits. Their requests weren't a lifeline anymore. They were a bottomless pit. "You think this is helping you?" My voice was quiet, even, the kind of calm that cut sharper than a yell. "For 3 years, I've been bailing you both out. And still, the debts pile higher." Jessica appeared in the doorway then, her dish towel twisted between her fingers. My wife's eyes were wide, lips tight with unease. "Please," she whispered, "can we not do this like this? Let's just sit down and talk." Samantha turned on her mother with fire in her eyes. "Talk? Mom, he's hoarding hundreds of thousands while we drown. How is that fair? How is that being a good father?" "Debt you created," I said flatly. The silence after was razor thin. Samantha's chest heaved as she glared at me, her gold necklace catching the light like a noose. Behind her, the family photograph that usually sat on the mantelpiece now lay face down on the shelf, the silver frame tilted awkwardly. Had it fallen in the commotion, or had someone turned it over deliberately? I couldn't tell. Peter leaned forward now, elbows on his knees, his smirk twisting into something uglier. "Let's be honest, old man. You're not getting any younger. Wouldn't it feel better to enjoy your money while you're alive? Watch your family actually benefit instead of waiting to cash out when you're 6 feet under?" "Old man." The words settled in my gut like acid. They stung more than I expected, more than I wanted them to. This from a man who'd never held a real job longer than a season, who had lived off my daughter's credit cards and my reluctant generosity. I straightened my back. My voice rose, clipped and deliberate. "I worked 43 years for that money. 43 years of 12-hour days, missed dinners, canceled vacations. So that Samantha could have every chance. So her mother and I could retire with dignity." Dignity. Samantha's laugh was hollow, brittle. "What's dignified about sitting on a pile of cash while your daughter begs for help?" I glanced at her diamond earrings, her designer bag slung across the chair, Peter's new sneakers barely broken in. Her idea of suffering was more expensive than most families' idea of wealth. "Your suffering," I said slowly, "is self-inflicted." The words hit harder than I meant them to, and maybe that was the point. Samantha's lips curled. "So now it's my fault? My fault for wanting a decent life, while you play the miser?" Jessica stepped into the room now, pale as parchment. "Frank, maybe." "Maybe what?" Samantha snapped, her voice splintering the air like broken glass. "Maybe we should let him keep controlling us with his money? Maybe we should keep pretending he's a loving father instead of a selfish tyrant." Selfish, tyrant, miser. The words stabbed deeper than they should have, because they came not from Peter but from my own child. Peter stood then, squaring his shoulders, his tone turning darker. "You know what I think, Frank? I think you like it. Watching us scramble, watching us beg. Makes you feel powerful, doesn't it? Get out." The words erupted before I could stop them. My chest heaved, the veins in my temples throbbing. "Both of you. Out of my house." Samantha's eyes flashed. "Your house?" she spat. "This house Mom helped pay for. This house I grew up in. You think you can throw us out like garbage? Watch me. The air shifted. For a moment, I thought she'd lunge forward, that we'd shatter completely into something unrecoverable. But she only grabbed her purse, her heels cracking the hardwood like gunfire. You'll regret this, she hissed. When you're old and weak and need us. Remember tonight. Peter lingered at the door, his shadow long against the wall. Family doesn't abandon family, he muttered before following her out. The slam of the door rattled the windows. Silence collapsed over the house heavier than their shouting. I stayed frozen at the door, fingers tight around the brass handle. Through the decorative glass, I watched Samantha's white Lexus tear out of the driveway, tires screeching against the asphalt. Jessica's soft footsteps approached behind me. Frank, she whispered. I turned. The living room was a battlefield. Coffee pooling on the rug, legal papers scattered like fallen leaves, the overturned photo frame flashing in the lamplight. 43 years, I said, more to myself than to her. Jessica bent to gather the papers carefully. She's struggling. The gambling is her choice, I snapped, sharper than intended. Every online bet, every lie about where the money went. Her choices. I lifted the photo frame and set it upright again. The image inside almost broke me. Samantha at 5 years old, gap-toothed and grinning on my shoulders at the Chicago County Fair. When had that joyful little girl turned into this stranger demanding my life savings? Remember the dollhouse? I asked quietly. Christmas when she was 7. The one from the expensive shop downtown. Jessica nodded faintly. I worked doubles for 2 months to afford it. And the ballet lessons. The summer camps. Every damn brand name shoe she wanted so she wouldn't feel less than her friends. Jessica didn't answer. She didn't need to. We both remembered. Now our daughter hurled mugs at the floor because I wouldn't sign away our future. My phone buzzed then. A message from an unknown number, though the tone was unmistakable. Dad, I hope you're happy. The kids need coats and school supplies, but I guess your precious money is more important. Don't expect to see them anytime soon. Grandchildren. Her sharpest weapon. Emma and Tyler, 8 and 6. Innocent pawns in their mother's war against me. Jessica read over my shoulder. Her lips trembled. She wouldn't actually keep them from us, would she? We both knew she would. She'd done it before, weaponizing silence, dangling visitation like a reward. Frank, Jessica said softly, maybe we should reconsider. No, the word cracked through the air like a gunshot. I met her eyes. No more. I won't be blackmailed. I won't let her teach Emma and Tyler that love is a transaction. Jessica recoiled slightly at the steel in my voice. In nearly 40 years of marriage, she'd rarely seen me this hard. But something inside me had snapped tonight. Something that couldn't be glued back together. The illusion of sacrifice, of parental duty, had shattered just as completely as the mug on the rug. 6 days passed. 6 days of quiet, as if someone had pressed pause on our family. The house was too still without Samantha's constant calls, without the interruptions that usually followed every argument. Normally, her anger burned out fast. By the 3rd day, she'd be back with smaller requests, dangling apologies like bait before diving into another plea for money. But not this time. This silence was deliberate, calculated. It had a weight to it, heavy and unnatural. On Father's Day morning, I sat on the porch swing with the Sunday paper unfolded in my lap. The words blurred together, unread. A half-full coffee mug rested on the armrest beside me, the steam long since faded. Across the street, the Hendersons were packing up their minivan for what looked like a picnic. Next door, the Patels knelt among their garden beds, laughter floating across the air as they teased one another. Normal families, carrying on with their lives. Jessica moved around the kitchen behind me, her faint clatter of dishes drifting through the open window. We'd spent the past week dancing around each other's fears, careful not to speak Samantha's name unless necessary. It was easier to talk about weather, groceries, the church bake sale. Safer to pretend the wound wasn't bleeding. The rumble of a truck engine broke my trance. I looked up to see a brown UPS van slowing in front of our house. The driver checked his handheld device, then hopped down with the brisk efficiency of someone already behind schedule. Strange. We hadn't ordered anything. Sunday deliveries weren't common unless someone paid extra. The man grabbed a medium-sized box from the back, no bigger than a shoebox, but light enough to carry in one hand. He jogged up our walkway. "Morning," he said cheerfully. "Frank Dwyer. That's me. Happy Father's Day." He handed over the package and his scanner. "Somebody thinks a lot of you. Sunday delivery costs a pretty penny." I scribbled my signature, thanked him, and watched him jog back to the truck before it pulled away with a low roar. Jessica appeared at the doorway, wiping her hands on a towel. "Who's it from?" I turned the box in my hands. No return address. Just a generic label and my name printed cleanly across the front. It weighed less than I expected, maybe 2 pounds at most. "Doesn't say," I answered, carrying it inside. I set it down on the coffee table in the living room, the same spot where inheritance papers had scattered across the floor 6 nights earlier. Jessica frowned, her arms crossed. "That's odd. No return address at all. Not that I can see." She stepped closer, her expression shifting from curious to wary. Jessica had always been the cautious one, checking the stove twice before leaving, double-locking the doors at night. Too many years of evening news stories about mail bombs and scams had made her alert. "Maybe it's from the kids," she suggested. Her tone was hopeful, but her eyes betrayed doubt. Emma had asked about Father's Day last month, before Samantha's threats had cut us off. Could this be their idea of a gift? My chest ached at the thought, but even as I considered it, something inside me recoiled. Emma was 8. Tyler was 6. They wouldn't arrange a delivery like this, not without their mother's hand guiding it. I forced a smile anyway. Could be. Jessica wasn't convinced. She leaned down, inspecting the package with her usual precision. That's when her fingers stilled against the cardboard. "Frank," she said slowly, her voice low. "Don't open it." The way she said it froze me. "What do you mean?" "Look closer. Can't you see?" She pointed to one side of the box. At first, I didn't notice. But when I tilted it toward the light, my stomach dropped. Tiny holes dotted the cardboard, precise, evenly spaced punctures, barely noticeable unless you looked for them. Air holes. For breathing. The blood drained from my face. "You're saying?" Jessica nodded, stepping back. "Something alive is in there." We stared at the box, our cozy suburban living room suddenly transformed into something sinister. Sunlight poured through the window, but it didn't feel warm anymore. Shadows seemed to stretch deeper across the rug, across the table, toward the innocuous-looking package. "Who would?" Jessica's voice faltered. "Who would send us something alive?" The answer pulsed in my chest with sickening clarity. "Samantha." The timing was too sharp, the silence too staged. This wasn't a gift, it was a message. From inside the box came the faintest sound, a soft rustling. Jessica gasped and gripped my arm, her nails biting through the fabric of my polo. We both froze, listening. The noise stopped as quickly as it had started, leaving a silence louder than any scream. "Frank," she whispered, "did you hear that?" I nodded, unable to find words. The air holes, the rustling, whatever was inside, it was alive, awake. Then, faint but unmistakable, came a hiss. Not the rustle of paper, not the creak of shifting contents. A hiss. Jessica's hand trembled against me. "Oh my God!" The sound faded, leaving us with only our ragged breathing and the clock ticking on the mantel. My mind raced. Rats? Snakes? Something venomous? A grotesque Father's Day gift meant to terrify us? Or worse? Jessica backed away from the table entirely now, her face pale. "We have to call the police. Right now." I didn't argue. I pulled out my phone, my fingers clumsy against the screen. For the first time in years, I felt real fear in my own home, not of shouting matches or threats of estrangement, but of something primal, animal, unknown. The 911 operator answered, calm and detached, as though she weren't listening to the unraveling of our lives. "This is Frank Dwyer," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I've received a package. No return address. There are breathing holes. And noises. Something alive is inside." She asked me to describe it. My words tumbled over each other. Medium-sized, 2 pounds at most, delivered by UPS, no visible sender. I could hear her typing. Then she said, firmly, "Sir, step away from the package. Do not touch it again. Officers are being dispatched now." Jessica gripped my hand tightly as we backed into the hallway. Every second stretched unbearably long. The living room, once warm with family photos and soft lamplight, had become hostile terrain. That box sat in the center like a predator crouching in plain sight. The hissing started again, louder this time. Jessica whimpered, clutching at me. "Frank, I know." My throat was dry. "I know." Somewhere outside, a siren wailed faintly, growing closer with each heartbeat. The sirens grew louder, rising above the hum of cicadas and the faint thrum of neighborhood sprinklers. Our quiet street rarely saw police presence. An occasional traffic stop, maybe the time Mr. Patel's shed was broken into. But never this. Jessica and I stood frozen in the hallway, hands clasped so tightly my knuckles ached. The hissing inside the box came and went, intermittent, like it was aware of the tension it caused. A knock rattled the front door. Seattle Police Department. Relief crashed through me, though fear still gripped every nerve. I hurried to unlock the door. 2 uniformed officers entered, scanning the room with practiced caution. "Mr. Dwyer?" the taller one asked. His nameplate read Officer Garcia. "Yes," I said quickly, my voice cracking. "It's there, on the table." Garcia's partner, Officer Reynolds, glanced at the package and muttered, "Jesus." Jessica stayed back, wringing her hands, while Garcia pulled out his radio. "Dispatch, we've got a suspicious package, possible live contents. Requesting animal control and bomb squad for safety." "Copy," came the tinny reply. I swallowed hard. "It hissed," I said. "More than once. Something's alive in there." The officers exchanged a grim look. Reynolds stepped closer, crouching just enough to shine a flashlight at the tiny air holes. The faintest movement flickered inside, just at the edge of visibility. "Yep," he muttered. "Something's in there, all right." Garcia turned to me. "Sir, has anyone threatened you recently? Any reason someone would send you this?" I hesitated. Jessica's sharp intake of breath reminded me this was no time for half-truths. "My daughter," I admitted. "My daughter Samantha. She's been unstable, angry. There was a fight about inheritance last week. She and her boyfriend said I'd regret my decision." Garcia's expression hardened. "So this could be retaliation." Jessica spoke up, her voice shaking. "We think so. She knows today is Father's Day. It feels deliberate." Reynolds nodded grimly. "Fits the pattern. Seen some ugly stuff in domestic cases." Minutes later, an animal control unit arrived. 2 specialists in thick gloves and protective gear, one carrying a reinforced container. Behind them, a bomb squad truck pulled up, lights flashing silently. Neighbors had gathered across the street, whispering, their eyes darting between the flashing lights and our front door. Garcia moved them back with calm authority. "For your safety, please stay behind the line." Inside, the animal control officer, a woman named Dr. Keller, approached the table. Her movements were deliberate, steady, exuding the calm of someone used to danger. She crouched, ear tilted slightly toward the box. "Hear that?" she asked. The hiss rose again, low but unmistakable. Dr. Keller nodded once. "Snake. Likely venomous. Given the sender went through trouble to provide air holes. We'll handle it." Jessica covered her mouth, horrified. I felt bile rise in my throat. Samantha hadn't just wanted to scare us. She wanted to harm us. Keller slipped on a pair of reinforced gloves and signaled to her partner. With careful precision, they eased the box into the reinforced container, securing the lid with a metallic snap. The hissing intensified briefly, then muffled as the box was sealed. "Safe now," Keller assured us. "We'll take it to our facility, identify the species, and file a report. Based on the sound and size, I'm betting it's an exotic viper. Illegal to own here without a permit. Whoever sent this committed multiple crimes." Garcia's jaw tightened. "That helps us build the case." He turned to me. "Mr. Dwyer, would you be willing to make a formal statement against your daughter and her boyfriend?" The question hung in the air like smoke. Jessica touched my arm gently. Frank. I closed my eyes. Images flashed. Samantha at 5 years old, running through the sprinkler in our backyard. At 12, beaming with braces after her first band recital. At 21, walking across the stage at graduation. And then, the Samantha from last week. Eyes sharp, voice venomous, threats spilling out without restraint. I opened my eyes. Yes, I said quietly but firmly. I'll make the statement. Garcia nodded, almost relieved. Good. The sooner we move, the safer. By late afternoon, the house had emptied of uniforms and flashing lights. The box was gone, replaced by silence. But the tension lingered, soaked into the walls, impossible to scrub away. Jessica brewed tea, her hands still unsteady as she set the mugs on the kitchen table. I sat heavily, running a hand over my face. She really meant to hurt us? I said. Her own father. Jessica's eyes brimmed with tears. She's not the Samantha you raised anymore, Frank. She's been swallowed by bitterness. By Peter. Peter Hayes. The man who had appeared smooth, charming, even polite on first introductions. Now I saw him clearly. A parasite, feeding on Samantha's resentments, twisting them until she barely resembled the girl I'd loved and raised. She sent a snake, I whispered. Saying it aloud made it more real, more monstrous. Jessica reached for my hand. We'll get through this. We'll tell the police everything. We'll protect ourselves. But even as she spoke, I noticed the shadows lengthening outside, the growing quiet of the neighborhood settling into night. And I couldn't shake the sense that this wasn't over. The next morning, Detective Garcia called. Mr. Dwyer, we've identified the snake. A Gabon viper. Incredibly venomous, illegal in Washington. Whoever sent it could face charges for illegal possession of a dangerous animal, reckless endangerment, attempted assault, maybe even attempted murder, depending on how the prosecutor frames it. My hand tightened around the phone. And Samantha? We're looking into it. UPS records show the package originated from a drop-off in Tacoma. Security cameras caught images of a man matching Peter Hayes' description. That gives us leverage. But if your daughter's involved, she'll face consequences too. I thanked him, though the words felt hollow. Consequences. Prison. My daughter, the little girl who once curled on my lap for bedtime stories, might be in handcuffs soon. After I hung up, Jessica touched my shoulder. What did he say? I told her everything. She nodded slowly, her face set with quiet resolve. Then we'll stand firm, she said. No matter how much it hurts. We can't let her keep dragging us into her darkness. I looked at her, at the woman who'd stood beside me through every storm, and knew she was right. Still, that night, as I stood at the window and looked out into the quiet street, I couldn't shake the image of headlights idling too long. A shadow lingering where no one should be. The package was gone, but the fear it delivered remained, lodged deep, like venom waiting to spread. And in the silence of my living room, I heard again, faint, imagined or not, the hiss.